Hi everyone, I'm Steve Stoller.
And I'm Shauna Haley, and this is Inside Plano, where we take you behind the scenes of our city.
We'll introduce you to the faces and places who help make this a great place to live.
And give us lots of reasons to love Plano. Well, happy June, Steve Stoller.
Happy June to you, Shauna. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I just have to tell you that I feel like my brain is a scrambled egg these days. There is
Why
so
is
much
that?
going on. There's just a lot going on in the city, and it feels like trying to keep on top of everything can be a real challenge. I mean, have you had that problem too, that there's always something new that you need to know and that you didn't know? And we've been here for, between the two of us, or over a decade. Something new all the time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the part of the fun of the job is that we're always coming across new things and new situations. And some
Yeah.
of them are more challenging than others, but that's what makes life interesting.
Oh, that is true. That is true. Well,
I feel like we should start this by singing happy birthday. You know why?
you know what? I do know why, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Plano is turning 149 years old this year. And really, that's just kind of a funny way to commemorate that our city's date of incorporation was June 2nd, 1873. And it feels appropriate, doesn't it, Steve? Because last month, May, was Heritage Preservation Month, so we're talking about the history of our city.
We're a year away from our sesquicentennial.
I
And I didn't know
love
what
that
a
word.
sesquicentennial even was until we had it here in Texas years ago.
I love that word. And you know what? We are already, as a city, working on what the plans for that will be, because 150 years is kind of a big deal. It's something to be celebrated because Plano has great historic roots, and it's made for a great city of growth and change over time.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We are moving into summer. And I know we mentioned this in last month's podcast, but now is the time to pay attention, right?
Right,
Your
and there's
kids
a lot
busy.
of summer learning activities that we have going on in the
Yep.
city, which are kinda cool. You can kick off your summer learning activities with the Plano Public Library, of course, on June 4th. You can participate in fun festivities as you explore all the libraries have to offer. Pick up your library passport and plan for a summer of exploration and discovery. Those passports are available on June 4th. And you can get a stamp for each activity or program you participate in, and a stamp for every 10 books you read. Suggestions included inside the passport. Bring your completed passport to the library from August 1st to 14th, and you can pick up a prize.
Speaking of learning and our earlier conversation on there just being so much to know, um, honestly, there is more to learn and to be aware of in the city than any one person could ever possibly keep in mind. And Steve, you and I field a lot of questions. In fact, you started a great video series, Stoller on the Street, where you talk about some of those did you knows, because there's honestly more than we can know, right?
There's so many different everything from services to events that, I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds of things that probably a lot of our residents don't know about that are right there for their taking, and they're really wonderful things. So what we try to do with each episode is tell our people who live in the community about certain things they may not know that they can take advantage of or learn about.
Well, absolutely. It's a great series. Everyone, you can find that on our YouTube channel. We, of course, publish it on social media as well, but we have a whole YouTube playlist just dedicated to Stoller on the Street. But so, as we were talking about learning and earlier chatting about just having so much information that we were trying to keep track of, that is life in the city. And I think for many of us, we don't worry about needing to know things until we need to know them. I know that's true for me. And, one thing, Steve, that we've started because there's just more information and did you know kinds of things than anybody would think imaginable. We started a new video series. In fact, you started it, called Stoller on the Street.
Yeah, and we've done about 60 episodes so far, and the whole gist of it is just to get out some simple information about things that the city provides to our community. And there are so many things, that literally hundreds and hundreds of things that probably most people don't know about. So it's a nice conversational way to show some video and to let people know what we provide as a city. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun to do too.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're starting to get recognized for the series. Maybe it's gonna be your lasting legacy instead of being on our local news stations, it'll be Stoller on the Street. I we field those questions all the time, and we thought that maybe today we would pick a few of those types of things that you didn't know you needed to know, and talk about them here on the podcast. So why don't we jump into some of those useful things to know?
Sounds great. And at the top of the list is pet registration. Registering them is really easy. All you need is a copy of your pet's current rabies vaccination paperwork, a rabies tag number, the pet's description, breed, and if your pet is spayed or neutered. By registering, owners receive a free online pet profile where you can list phone numbers, email addresses, and contact people, as well as any special or medical or dietary needs that the pet may have. This will help people who find your pets access to the owner's information 24/7, so your furry friends can be returned home much faster. And we also have an online lost pet area where you can report lost pets and look for them online. We have a lost and found pets map on our website where you can report them. And then there's also great tips for what you should do if you lose your pet.
Yeah, I think, our Glory Bee walked out the back gate, didn't get latched correctly. I think your dog Braxton, same kind of thing. The door blew open, and it's
Yeah.
helpful to have a variety of ways to find lost pets.
And it's so important to have those tags too, because
Mhm.
Braxton got out through the front door and was actually found by someone who pulled over right off Preston Road. He was walking on the sidewalk along a very busy street. Fortunately, someone was nice enough to pull over and called a phone number on the tag that we had. And within an hour, we had Braxton back.
Yeah.
So very important to register the pets and to have those tags on them in case, just by chance they get out.
Yep. And it happens, it just things happen for sure. Steve, one thing that you and I talk a lot about in the spring, early spring, I believe it's March every year, we go through a water maintenance period, and folks might notice a slight change in the taste or smell of their water. What I don't think people know, though, is that it's very easy to read our annual water quality report online and get up to speed on the quality of our water. In fact, our water system, and we're part of the North Texas Municipal Water District, our water system has a superior rating from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and a lot of people may know that just by its acronym TCEQ. All of our water comes from nearby lakes. And the fun fact, when I married a Texan, that he made sure I knew, there's only one natural lake in all of Texas, and that's Caddo Lake in East Texas. So we're talking about water that's mainly runoff water into catchment lakes. So it's very important that that water be treated so that it's safe for human consumption. You can read up to the last 5 years water quality reports. They're called the Consumer Confidence Report. We post those on our website. Of course, as always, we include links to that in the show notes. It has a lot of interesting data there.
And people may know that we do have summer and winter watering guidelines. Did you know you can sign up for a service that tells you how much water you need based on the weather? I signed up for it and it's wonderful. I told it to text me every Monday. I get an email and a text, and it tells me how much water my lawn needs. All you got to do is go to watermyyard.org and you can sign up for this free service. It's great. You can also find more tips on using water wisely indoors and outdoors on our city website, plano.gov. Are you looking for more help on how to live more green? Our sustainability team offers a variety of in-person classes, workshops, and online learning. Their website has a calendar and registration links where you can sign up for their newsletter to have information delivered directly to you.
Yeah, they even teach sprinkler classes and how to water your foundation. I mean, it's just amazing what they teach. Well, Steve, you're like me, driving through the city, so many construction cones, so many construction cones. It's sidewalks, streets, you name it. It's there. Um, we are in a time when we are doing a lot of work on maintaining the city, and it's a variety of types of projects. And we get those questions, sent to us on social media all the time. What's happening at the corner of X, Y, and Z? What you may not know is that there is actually something called the current projects map. It's on our website. We'll put a link to it in the show notes, but it is fantastic because it has all of the projects that the city is doing for streets, drainage, and so, that would be like water runoff, water mains, that kind of thing, sewer, uh, massive water projects, pavement rehabilitations, residential street rehabilitations, sidewalks, park projects. All of those are on there, and it's kind of a series of squiggly lines. It's all color coded. There's a little index that tells you what the colors mean, but you can click on any one of those lines, and it'll pop up a little pop-up box that has a bunch of information: what the project is, when it started, who the point of contact is if you have questions. So you can contact a project manager if there's something that you don't understand about the project, or you're concerned about something. You have their email and phone number to get in touch with them, which is pretty awesome. It gives you the expected timeline and obviously much, much more about the project. So that's pretty cool. Now, sometimes people want a little more detail about a project. Why is this project happening? What's the plan look like? This is particularly true about park projects. What does the plan look like for a playground that's being remodeled? Well, there are, not everything is centralized because it's just a ton of information. So Parks and Recreation has a really great page where they have the status of all of their parks projects that are underway, and so you can go and you can see presentations on projects that were made to the neighborhoods. You can look at that and see the status, and they do a really great job of providing status updates there. There is also, if you are really a person that loves to dig into the detail and know what's in design, what's being planned, what's in construction, and what's the status. We actually have as a PDF file, but it's a PDF of a working Excel document. I'll tell you, we work from that Excel document here in the city, so you're seeing what city staff are using. As we're working through the project planning process. That's actually on the website too. And there have been times that I've looked and said, I know that the city approved XYZ project in the bond election, and I'm wondering what's up with that bond project. You can go to that spreadsheet and you can see what's happening. So pretty interesting if you like the details.
Shauna, here's something else people may not know about: the wide variety of venues that we have available to rent. If you're planning events from meetings to concerts to weddings, receptions, we have a wide variety of indoor and outdoor facilities, including amphitheaters, park pavilions, library meeting rooms, and recreation facilities. Most of Plano's rentals are available by reservation only and require an hourly rental fee and security deposit. Rental spaces, of course, are available on a first come, first served basis, and availability and cost vary depending on location. If you want more information, go to our website, plano.gov/rentals.
Some pretty cool spaces in the city. I happen to really love the Environmental Education Center because it just is away from everything, and it's beautiful. Well, let's talk a little bit more about some very important things that you need to know with today's special guest.
Shauna, let's go behind the scenes of our 911 center now. We have as our special guest today Susan Carr, our dear friend, who's also the Director of Public Safety Communications. Welcome, Susan.
Thanks. Welcome to you guys today.
Thank you. Well, we always like to start by asking the folks we're interviewing to tell us something about themselves that we don't know.
Well, you guys know a lot about me, but I actually started as a police dispatcher many years ago before 911 when 911 service was coming online. 911, I was hired to be a police dispatcher and a 911 operator many years ago. So I started before 911 came, and I've watched all the evolutions of 911 from when you called on your house phone to now cell phones. And as we move forward into what we call next generation 911, the ability to receive video in the future.
Let me ask you this, Susan. We've talked a lot about people calling in 911 and how to get better responses and people doing what they're supposed to do when they call. And one of the things that we talked about that's very important, and I know you want to get it out to the public, is what happens when you call 911 and it rings a few times and you don't get through immediately. I know some people have a tendency to want to hang up and call back, but there's a problem with that.
Sure, Steve. So when you call 911, and if you hang up, that creates what we call an abandoned call. And we call all of our abandoned calls back to make sure that there's not a significant emergency or something that they're involved in that needs a response. And then when you call back in, you're put at the end of the queue. So if you're driving down 75 or one of the highways and there's a traffic crash, everybody on a mobile phone is calling in, and we appreciate, all the calls that we can get, but the phone's going to ring a little bit longer because all of the calls, there's this sudden influx of calls, and then people sometimes get a little frustrated and they'll hang up and call again, and it's a vicious cycle with having to trying to call them back, or then they're back at the end of the line again.
Well, Susan, since you mentioned people calling 911 and you have a process, what does a 911 call process look like in general? If I was to call 911, what would I expect that to look like?
So our call takers answer the phone. It's always the same first three calls. Everybody answers the phone. Plano 911, what's the address of your emergency? And then we ask, what's the phone number that you're calling from? And those first two pieces of information we want to get so we know where to send someone. And if we get disconnected and we don't get that and we've got the phone number, we can at least get a call back to you to find out where you're coming from or where we need to send them. And then the third piece is tell me exactly what happened. That tells us what the nature of the emergency is and whether or not we need to send police or fire, EMS, or both. Once we have those three pieces of information, the call taker has entered them into their computer system, and the call is forwarded to the appropriate dispatcher, police, fire, or both. And then from that point, the dispatcher dispatches the call, and the call takers are staying on the line, answering additional questions, asking additional questions, or giving you additional information, safety information, pre-arrival information, pre-arrival medical instruction. While they're doing that, the call has been dispatched. Often callers get frustrated and say, don't ask me questions, just send them. And we have sent them. We're just getting the additional information to give to the responders or providing that pre-arrival information.
Well, I was going to ask you if there was a difference between takers and dispatchers, and it sounds like there is, that those are two different groups of people. Is that correct?
Yes. Our specialists, our public safety communications specialists can be cross-trained, but they're either assigned to work call taking or dispatching for a day. And so if they're call taking, they're not doing the dispatching. If they're dispatching, they're not answering your call.
Susan, how is calling with a cell phone any different than calling with a landline? Does it matter?
It is different. Many years ago when 911 first came in, nobody had cell phones. It was you were calling from your landline at home with a static address. Your address didn't move, but your cell phone moves and it's mobile. So we do not always get an exact address with your cell phone call. We get an approximate address or a close location. It's improved. Now it's usually within 100 meters. It may show up at your address, or it may show up at your neighbor's address, or it may show up at the street behind you or right across from you. But it's getting better, and usually it's a pretty close location. But we're always going to ask you to provide the address of the emergency. That way we know we're sending exactly to the right location with a mobile call. And even if you have your landline, we're going to ask you what's the address, because you may have moved and the phone company hasn't updated their records. So we always want to make sure we ask that address first, because that way there is no delay in getting responders to the right location.
We've seen a lot of We've seen a lot of commercials lately for the Apple Watch and how it can call 911 for you. Is that something that we have available to us here in Plano?
It is. And we have just in April, we received a hard fall notification from an Apple Watch. The watch calls 911, and there's an automated voice that says that they've received a fall detection from the caller or from the owner of the watch, and that they're not responding. And this is the latitude and the longitude. So we, like I said, we received a call in April from a watch, and my call taker heard a gentleman groaning in the background. So we dispatched the fire department, and they got out to the location. And the gentleman's wife didn't know that he had passed out in another room in the house. So it was handy that it made that notification because she wasn't aware, and Plano Fire Rescue was able to get there and provide assistance to the gentleman. So we do have receive the Apple Watch calls, and then with Apple as well, and Android phones, you can text to 911 as well. Today, it's an SMS message, so we get it in. It's not real time. We don't see it scrolling across. It's just one large blurb. So if you're going to text 911, we always ask for the location, because the text information is not sent with your location is not sent with your text. So we're going to ask you back again for the location. It's going to be a little bit longer process. That's why we say call if you can, text if you can't. But if you can't, it's a great option for you. We had a gentleman who was having a difficult time breathing, and so he couldn't talk as well. So he texted us, and we were able to send fire rescue out to help him.
I think that's amazing. I like that you say call if you can, because I was thinking about, some folks who are younger than me. There's a tendency to prefer to text. I don't want to have to make a call. I'd rather text. But what I'm hearing you say is it's for those situations where you really cannot call, but otherwise you should call. Calling is the better solution, correct?
Sure. Yes, because like I said, it's going to take a little bit longer on that back and forth with the text. We're waiting for that information to be keyed in, and then we're having to type back the location. But it's also, it provides equal access for deaf and hard of hearing as well. So that's, instead of having to use a TTY or a TDD machine, text is a preferred choice as well for the deaf and hard of hearing community as well.
Well, I like that you're increasing accessibility. And, along that same line, not everybody in Plano speaks English. We have a wide variety of languages in this city. If someone doesn't speak English and they call 911 for help, there's an emergency situation. How does that impact how you provide service to them?
Really, there's not. We would ask first, is there an English speaker in the house that we could talk to? But if not, we have a translation service that we use. We would conference the translation service in, and then we would be able to ask the questions through a translator, so that we can provide get the same information, provide the same instructions just through a translator.
Susan, you said you've been in the business for a really long time and you've watched it change. Did you always want to work in 911? And, is that something that you're like, this is a career path for me, and that if somebody's going to join our team, they should probably already know that that's what their dream job is?
Actually, no, Shauna. I was putting myself through college, and I needed a job. And, this was a job that offered great, the city of Plano has great benefits. You guys are aware of that. And, the hours worked out for me. So I started as a police dispatcher. And, I really fell in love with the job. It's different every day, but you're able to help people every day, through big, not every call's a CPR, but there's other little calls where people just need information, and you can really help them that way as well. So we receive calls every day, we dispatch every day, but there's different circumstances, and every little thing is different. So it keeps you busy, and it's enjoyable. But no, I started here, and like I said, I fell in love with the job and ended up here 35 years later.
And it's such an important job too, getting help to people who truly need it. Susan, is there anything else you'd like to add about public safety communications or 911?
Just one other thing I would, we talked about don't hang up and call back, but also if you accidentally call 911, don't hang up, because your call connects a lot sooner than you think it does. So we'll be calling you back if you hang up. A lot of times it's just better if you stay on the phone and say, oh, it was an accident. I didn't mean to call 911. So, and then One of our public education messages is always to lock your phone. A lot of times we get a lot of pocket dials, what we call. So if you keep your phone locked, you won't get the emergency SOS or the pocket dial call either, where we'll call you back.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan. We appreciate you and your team and all the great work that you do for the city of Plano. Our special guest once again today was Susan Carr, Director of Public Safety Communications. Thanks for joining us, Susan.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, I find the service that 911 provides to be pretty amazing. That group does an incredible job taking care of us and getting help where help is needed, part of our great public safety team. And
It's amazing to go down there and just to observe them. They're very, very professional, and they do a great job.
absolutely. Well, how about we wrap up talking about some fun things that are coming soon? So first up, All American 4th. Yes, All American 4th, July 4th. 6 to 10 p.m., Red Tail Pavilion. You may know that facility is the old Oak Point Amphitheater, same space called Red Tail Pavilion. Wonderful fireworks. Our 4th of July parade floats will be on display. We're not having a parade this year. It didn't get organized. We have a new provider, and so they're going to have some of those floats out there for you to see and enjoy. So it's a walkthrough experience on that side of things, but get your space on the hillside to watch some great fireworks.
And I don't know if you've been out to our Oak Point Recreation Center,
Mm.
but they've been renovating the pool, and it is going to be very, very cool.
Yeah,
I don't
totally
want to
different.
Well, they've got a wave pool that they're
Mhm.
building, and that's going to be spectacular. Now, I don't want to give out any dates or anything, but I heard through the grapevine that we're getting very, very close to opening. So stay tuned for those details.
Yeah, and this summer it looks like it's going to be warm, so definitely want to spend some time in those great Plano pools. And just so everybody remembers, those opened back on Memorial Day weekend, so make your plans now to enjoy some fun in Plano. With that being said, it is summertime and we've come to the end of our June podcast. We always love to take your questions. Ask Plano at plano.gov. We use those to help plan what we're going to be talking about. And I think we already have some good ideas for what's going to be on the agenda for next month. So we look forward to talking to you then. Until next month, thanks.
See you soon, Plano. Have a good one.
And that's it for our Inside Plano. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did doing it.
If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to us at askplano@plano.gov. Bye.
Talk to you next month. The Inside Plano podcast is brought to you by the City of Plano.